There we go. Hello, bigots, bigots and bigettes, and nerds and nerdettes.
This is the baguette.
The baguette. The
What
baguette
in
in
this world
space.
necessitates a baguette?
If there was a baguette in space, and the baguette self-assemble in space, without
Would
a
there be a
creator,
God?
if
Why
you...
do you believe in a God if there is baguette?
I'm here with Jay Dyer. Jay Dyer of jaysanalysis.com. Big shout out to Jay. We made it. We're actually right on time for me and Jay because we're always casually 30 minutes late on these streams. And Aaron, the big black dude in the chat, he knows that. That's why he gave me the honorary black card, which unfortunately YouTube doesn't even. I'm not even allowed to use my free N-word pass on YouTube for some reason. But it is what it is. So shout out to everyone in the chat. We got Aaron, we got OK, we got Exposing Powerful Lies. Got my mod crew up in the chat. We got a bunch of Jay nerds, Jay's Analysis nerds. If you guys don't know Jay runs jaysanalysis.com. He's got 2 great books. He is He's a published author of Esoteric Hollywood 1 and 2. He had a TV show for a little while there. He is a trans boomer activist and a boomer hat and boomer shirts rights activist. And he's here.
Founder of all of that movement.
Founder of the Trans Boomer Society of America, which
Boomer rights activism, boomer style activism, yes. Promoting activism through style.
Yeah, that's his motto. We're here to talk about Bertrand Russell, the high priest. You had a stream a while back. What was the title of that? Like the high priest of the scientific establishment, or the satanic high priest of...
Yeah, something like that 2 or 3 years ago. Yeah, I did a Russell video, and that was kind of the first one I did. And then I did this, I forget what I titled the other one, but yeah, I've covered 2 of the books so far, and they're more, he's more interesting and relevant as a geopolitical figure than he is as a philosopher, which ironically he's known for being supposedly the most important logician and philosopher of the last century, but that's all, as we know, part of the propaganda to prop him up as this great thinker.
Yeah, the greatest logician of all time. I've got his book right here, The Scientific Outlook. This book it kind of reads like a genocidal maniac's 9th grade manifesto after taking a few classes in Darwinism and hanging out on Reddit atheist forums for a bit. The tagline, "The noted English philosopher outlines the effect of science upon human life and the nature and scope of scientific knowledge." We're going to be talking about this book as well as the impact of science on society, which this book's...
Yeah, I'm half your size. Oh no, wait a minute. I'm far bigger and far stronger than you.
Excuse me. Thank you for the reminder. Exposing Powerful Lies donated nice $20 through Super Chat and Streamlabs. Says, someone once told me that aliens are fake and gray. Yeah, there you go. Thank you very much.
By the way, why do the vegans all look pale and green? Like they look sickly.
Green, gray, yeah.
Yeah, they're graylians.
They've
gray.
yeah, they've transcended. They're evolving to the next phase. They're like 5% more evolved than us, and
okay, that makes sense.
yeah,
now I see.
The grays are like 2,000% more evolved. That's why they have the huge eyes and total vegan gray skin. So yeah, Exposing Powerful Lies reminded me, you guys, the best way to support, the only way to really support without supporting YouTube, who has screwed our channel royally over the last couple years, thrown us on that naughty list, that shadow ban territory. Only way to support is via Streamlabs. That's the best way. If you guys like these streams, please frickin' support the streams via the Streamlabs. And as always, we're doing the Streamlabs competition. Whoever sends the biggest super chat is the least bigoted, and I will not report you and get you put on the list of those to be purged from the internet and from the future scientific society. So top of the list of not to be purged if you throw those big fat super chats. And Jay, how would you characterize Bertrand Russell as a thinker, as a person, philosopher? What would you call him?
My first introduction to him, interestingly, was when I was a philosophy student. So in undergrad, you'll come across Bertrand Russell if you have, logic classes or maybe even an epistemology class, because he wrote some pretty famous essays that if you had an atheist professor, for example, he will probably try to get you to read. There's a book I read many years ago that I don't actually have it anymore, but Russell wrote Why I'm Not a Christian. That was my introduction to him, was that he was like the kind of the forefather, in a way you could say, of the modern new atheist movement, right? Now, there have been many atheists, obviously, in the history of philosophy, but for today's, Dawkins, Hitchens, Dennett, those kinds of guys, their granddaddy is
The vegan Gaines, the high-powered, heavy-hitter philosophers like Vegan Gaines, who you can find on OnlyFans as well.
I have to say, I do prefer Bertrand Russell's OnlyFans to Vegan Gaines' OnlyFans.
That's true. Yeah, Bertrand Russell, I don't want to give anything up. I don't want to spoil it. You guys can subscribe to his OnlyFans if you want. But he does have that kind of that Jeffrey Epstein shaped penis. His penis is actually shaped like, it looks exactly like Jeffrey Epstein.
Well, if you have a thing for turtles, if like me, you're turtlephilia, you're turned on by turtles, you'll like this elderly man and his spandex nudes.
Right. So you mentioned his essay, Why Are You Not a Christian? And it is surprising to me how many semi-learned people will share this essay as if it's some sort of a massive debunk, God, R-E-K-T, we just wrecked you, you theists thing. And yeah, it's, do you have a critique of that article in particular? I've got a clip here we can watch.
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind is the irony is that the great logician here supposedly has riddled his essay with fallacies. For example, he appeals pretty consistently throughout the essay he makes an emotional appeal, right? He says things like, no strong, rational, self-reliant individual would need the crutch of a god, right? Well, that may be, but that is a fallacy. Okay, so appealing to emotion, appealing to the audience's desire, it's a trick, right? And all fallacies are kinds of tricks, sleight of hand, where you do more. It's more like rhetoric or propaganda, where you're, who in the audience? I don't want to be a weak person. Why? Those theists are weak. I shall not be a weak person. There is, I rely on myself, right? And you'll hear this often repeated as kind of a really basic bitch. Jesse Ventura does this. I don't need a crutch, therefore I don't believe in a god. That's a literal argument I've heard Jesse Ventura. Well, it comes from Bertrand Russell. So, and many other fallacies you can find throughout this famous essay, which is also a book, a larger, expanded version of essays.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the actual essays. Here it is. I think this is it. But it looks like it's a transcript from a lecture.
Cell law is a PP in the poo-poo advocate.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, that was my introduction to new atheism, was actually Bertrand Russell and that kind of stuff back in about 2001. I think is when I first got into that. And then, of course, Russell has a famous history of philosophy book that a lot of undergrads pick up and read. And then people that get more into logic will study the more advanced logic type of stuff. And then you notice he had debates with Kurt Gödel about the existence of God, about set theory and mathematical systems. And I think Gödel refuted Russell with his incompleteness theorems. So that's all relevant to this. But most importantly, as you said, you get the real Russell in what you talked about and in these geopolitical and social theory books. That's really what these are. They're not so much treatises about science or the method of science. These are actually books about social engineering and propaganda, right? So this is more like a Edward Bernays type of book, or even an H.G. Wells type of book, than about anything really to do with science.
Yeah. Right. Well, it's the word or the title "Morals and Dogma" comes to mind, right? It's like an abridged version of Morals and Dogma, right? It's like kind of this Masonic Royal Society tome. It's almost like it's written for like 8th or 9th graders. And I said that earlier. And it's very simplistic. It's a quick read. The Scientific Outlook, very quick read, and very unscientific. There's very little talk of science at all in it. Like you said, it's mostly geopolitics. It's mostly talking about power politics and his grand theories and grand narrative theories about the world. Let me read this super chat here, just get this out of the way, because I got a feeling that we will get some decent support tonight. If we every time we get this many bigots in, we do get some support from the audience. So Jerome donated $25, says, "What up, bigots? Happy New Year to you both. God bless you and your loved ones. Keep up the great work." Thank you very much, Jerome. I appreciate that and appreciate the support. The channel could use that support. They could use the thumbs up. You guys hit the thumbs up, hit the like, and all those things that you're supposed to do. And share the dang videos. Doesn't matter how many people watch it. The view count's not going to go up. YouTube seems to fix those. But I see a bunch of you bigots in the chat, and I appreciate you guys who support. And we always appreciate that support. So let's. Would you mind if we watch this clip of him discussing whether or not, or why he is not a Christian? And then we can maybe critique it. And feel free to just jump in. I'll pause it whenever you jump in. I'll do my best to smash that pause right when you if you want to interrupt. The great logician Bertrand Russell.
Why are you not a Christian?
Because I see no evidence whatever for any of the Christian dogmas. I've examined all the stock arguments in favour of the existence of God, and none of them seem to me to be logically valid.
Do you think there's a practice?
Oh, he's seen all the arguments.
That's racism, man. I love to racism, bro.
Thank you. Bigot Ex Machina, $25 in the Streamlabs. Thank you guys. Streamlabs the best way. Don't do YouTube. YouTube takes a huge cut. Thank you, Bigot Ex Machina. So yeah, right away.
I've seen all the evidence. I've looked at all the evidence, and it's just that does not convince me.
He's seen the totality of evidence, right? He's seen it all. He knows it's not right.
Yeah, well, this is predicated, first of all, on the assumption that everything is logically quantifiable, that everything can be categorized as logic. And the irony is that the debate that he has with Gödel is over that very point, whether everything can be enclosed in a logical set or a numerical set or a totality explanation that's quantitative set theory. And Russell loses that debate, but it doesn't seem to really affect any of his stances. So even just from a mathematical standpoint, he loses the debate. But I think we begin to see that it's never really been about truth and logic. It's more so, again, about a paradigm and a worldview that they're committed to. So that's the great irony here, is that he's not a good logician at all.
Well, I mean, he's a logician who can't ground logic and reason in his worldview at all. So if you were to ask him, what's the evidence for logic?
I'll have to tell you the same thing. I didn't know. I've crawled through the evidence, and I've not seen any evidence for logic. I do have a Jeffrey Epstein-shaped penis, but I don't have any evidence for logic.
Practical reason for having a religious belief for many people.
Well, there can't be a practical reason for believing what isn't true. That's quite, at least I rule it out as impossible. Either the thing is true or it isn't. If it is true, you should believe it, and if it isn't, you shouldn't.
So again, I mean, well, how do we determine what's true, and what do you actually mean by true?
That woman doesn't give a very good apologetic response. She basically says, okay, well, if religion isn't logical, then maybe it's just pragmatically good. And Russell correctly says, I mean, that's not a good reason.
That's racism, man. I love to racism, bro.
Sorry.
So Russell's actually correct, but I mean, her reply is weak. It's a terrible argument.
Yeah, it is a very poor argument, and I mean, well, I don't think she's actually trying to. It seems like she's just lobbing softballs, underhanded softballs to him.
Exactly.
It's not like she's trying to give an apologetic. She's just from the BBC over there to basically promote atheism in the scientific worldview, and she's lobbing them to him.
And if you can't find out whether it's true or whether it isn't, you should suspend judgment. But you can't, it seems to me, a fundamental dishonesty and a fundamental treachery to intellectual integrity to hold a belief because you think it's useful and not because you think it's true.
But so that's kind of interesting, because if you read the Scientific Outlook and this is something that you pointed out many times, the problem of induction. You want to go ahead and discuss that a little bit? What is the problem of induction, and how does this connect to what he just says here? He says,
Oh, you shouldn't just believe something's true for pragmatic purposes or because you wish it was true.
Right, well, the irony is that precisely that point that he has no way to justify the belief in and the use of induction and the regularity of nature. And he knows that. And so he actually argues in the book that it's pragmatic. So the utilitarian pragmatic justification is what he argues in the book, that he just says here is not a good reason to believe something. So fundamental refutation, self-refutation, self-own.
Well, I was thinking of those people who find that some kind of religious code helps them to live their lives. It gives
eyes.
Yes, yeah, I've heard this. I remember this clip now. This woman just says, "But doesn't people find it useful? It helps them." Yeah. And that's all just pragmatic, subjective. That has nothing to do with whether it's true or false. And Russell is correct to call that out. However, Russell says this about scientism.
Yeah, exactly.
The scientific worldview works. It's pragmatic.
Yeah, and in induction, right? He says this about induction as well. He again.
It works. It helps people.
Yeah.
a very strict set of rules, the rights and the wrongs.
Yes, but those rules are generally quite mistaken. A great many of them do more harm than good. And
again, so when you read the Scientific Outlook, there are many assumptions about things like good, bad. He makes a lot of moral claims. He makes claims about, if God exists, God's mean because we have to die and because he didn't make me all powerful. These claims of what's good and bad, it all seems to come down to his own personal feeling too, which is kind of the...
Well, let me give you one example of how this is pretty transparent propaganda. So one thing I noticed as I was reading through Scientific Outlook was the lack of clear explanation of what science and the scientific method is. So what I did was every time Russell gave a different reference or explanation or definition, I wrote it down in the back what it was. And so I have 2 pages here of all of the different things that Russell says science is. And what's amazing about this is that you'll see how this is outlandish, ludicrous, self-contradictory, all over the place, everything and nothing. It's so elastic that it allows him to say anything and everything, use science, quote, scientism is what we're going to call it, and never really be clear what he's talking about because it's everything and nothing. Listen, he says, science only provides probable certitude. Okay. Now keep in mind each one of these, and that many of them are going to contradict. Science is basic empiricism. Science and its opinions are one with reason itself. Science is knowledge. Knowledge of the general laws or facts of the world is science. Science begins with Galileo. Engineering and technology are science. Science is progress. Science is the power of manipulating nature. Science is like divine providence. Science is induction.
Mm-hmm. So
he said the scientific method is almost omnipotent. Scientific knowledge does not stand alone, but only exists within the general body of scientific knowledge, universal. Mm-hmm. Science is based on assumptions that are universally, that are unverifiable. But authority in science is also not reliable because it's always correcting itself. Science has no soul. It is only the study of matter. Science is in decay, and skepticism has caused a loss of faith in science. But one day this will be solved. Science all ends in Hume and skepticism, but it's the most reliable way to know things. So this is just, and I can keep going, there's a whole other page, right? Science is like the geometrical laws of the universe. Science is systematic pursuit of knowledge. Science is an evolving worldview.
Okay, so knowledge, like where's
there's more. I can just keep going, but you get the
right?
point.
No, but it's like he's going in circles all the time. So okay, science is knowledge, science is empiricism, science is induction. It's like these none of these things actually fit within the narrow mold of truths that he'll accept as facts. You know what I'm saying? So it's like he claims to be essentially an empiricist, but then he doesn't even believe in he says science is reason. But he has no reason to believe that reason exists within his worldview. Right. He has no reason to believe that logic exists in his worldview. I found the quote on induction, right?
Yeah, it's page 103.
Okay.
Now, science is reason, and then he says reason is a social construct that the survival mechanism has basically developed, right?
So, okay, cool. It's a social construct. So if you just dominate everybody and get them to think that it's reasonable to wear a muzzle on your face, lock yourself in your home, piss your pants on the floor for the rest of your life, then that's true and good in science.
Actually, on page 91, he says science is power thought,
yes,
which is the understanding of causes and the observed chain of events, and this allows you to utilize that power thought. So basically, it's will to power here.
Yes, yeah. You know, it's funny. You got different pages. I guess you got different.
Yeah, I have this newer.
This one's academic. Cool. This one's actually really cool. I think this is from the. I don't know when this one was published. This might be from 50 something. It's an old one. It's falling apart. All right, check out this one. You're gonna like this one. The Hume quote, where he talks about Hume throwing doubt upon induction. Right. So he says,
"It is easy."
You have to do the Bertrand Russell.
It is easy to invent a metaphysic, which will have as a consequence that induction is valid, and many men have done so.
That's how.
I have to grab these because I have the. This means I have these legit glasses that are.
Those are you have the Bertrand Russell boomer.
I have the Bertrand Russell book glasses.
Those are the decoder glasses.
I'm smarter, but I just gained like 20 IQ points by doing that.
Yeah, those are the Q boomer decoder glasses, and when you put those on, you get to see.
They show me what's really going on.
They show you the plan that you trust.
I see the plan I trust it.
It is easy to invent a
I see the science when I put these on, right? The Q science plan from Bertrand Russell.
Absolutely.
It is easy to invent a metaphysic which will have as a consequence that induction is valid. And many men have done so, but they have not shown any reason to believe in their metaphysic, except that it was pleasant.
So then he goes on to say, he says,
but it must be admitted that in theory, induction remains an unsolved problem of logic. As this doubt, however, affects practically the whole of our knowledge, we may pass it by and assume pragmatically that inductive procedure with proper safeguards is admissible.
Now listen to this. Yeah, this is another one of my favorite contradictions here in this book. He says, minds are not real, nor are numbers real objects.
Yeah.
Minds and numbers are products of matter and perhaps even social constructs. So the minds that discover and create numbers and science are not real.
So everything is a social construct.
Is not real.
Yeah, science is a social construct, right?
And therefore it's not real, correct.
But that's the same reason he gives, the assumption he makes about God and religion, right? So to discredit religion, he says, oh, you can't just believe in something because it's pragmatically useful to you, unless it's induction.
And this is nothing but a giant bundle of contradictions and nonsense.
I mean, we could end the stream right there. It's like, but Bertrand Russell, so contradictory, the greatest logician of all time, and he doesn't even believe that logic is real, but says, let's just assume logic. So Bertrand Russell is almost as good of a logician as Ask Yourself and Vegan Gains. He's that tier of logician. So he actually has a whole chapter on scientific metaphysics, which is a fascinating chapter. Isn't that the one? Is that the one that has the quote that you mentioned of like science being power thought? Oops.
It's page
yeah, there it is. Yeah.
Let me see what page 91 is. That is the page in my copy about the chapter on
limitations.
It's science and religion is that chapter.
Okay. So I've got, that's weird. I wonder if they rearrange it, because I've got it in the it's in the limitations of scientific method section. And he says it's essentially power thought, the sort of thought that is to say, whose purpose, conscious and unconscious, is to give power to its possessor. Now, power is...
But this is where it says minds aren't real, page 91, where it says power thought. Minds aren't real, So he didn't write this book, right? This is remember what we said to JF, right? I am a monkey and a program machine. Oh, then you don't want, money for the book that you wrote, right?
For sure, you don't need that.
Like, we don't give money to machines, right? So why do you want money for the book that you wrote? You're not a mind. You don't have a mind. There's no self. So I mean, it's unbelievable that this is what passes for the greatest philosophy of the 20th century. But when you understand the power of propaganda and that the system picks these people to promote them and put them up, just like we see Neil deGrasse Tyson or Bill Nye today, or Richard Dawkins, no different than Russell.
Yep.
They're just put there as celebrity science men. Mm-hmm. They're more like just actors and celebrities than actual, quote, scientists.
Absolutely. And the chapter, Scientific Metaphysics, in the Scientific Outlook, is him trying to reconcile with this, right? I mean, he seeks to destroy the previous,
people's old, outdated beliefs in gods.
he seeks to destroy God and religion, but then realizes that there is a need for metaphysics, right? So he actually recognizes this in the book. So this is a curious fact that just when the man in street has begun to believe thoroughly in science, the man in the laboratory has begun to lose his faith, right? Because you can't be a scientist, you can't be a real scientist without seeing, the mysteries of creation. You can't see what you're actually doing is probing unprobable mysteries to a certain extent when you're looking at phenomena like electricity, which we don't fully understand, gravity, which is a theoretical framework to describe phenomenon in the natural world, which we cannot fully grasp, understand, or control. And in this chapter, he talks about what he calls a Promethean madness, right? A value that is religious and not political or even moral, and that the ultimate value of human life is to be found in this, quote, Promethean madness of seeking power over the forces of nature, of becoming gods, and of taking control of our own evolution, right? So go ahead.
Well, I'd like to add to that point that this is why the first chapter of this book is not about science or the scientific method. It's about the heroes of the Hall of Science. So this always makes me think of, if you read Hebrews 11, for example, that chapter is sometimes called the Hall of Faith because it's an account of the great saints of the Old Testament and their faithfulness, right? So it's like the Hall of Faith. Well, Bertrand Russell basically tells a story. He gives a narrative of, the many men of science that have been persecuted by the church and the superstitious, and this hall of great scientists has produced the progress that we have today.
The saints of progress, right?
And of course, it's like Galileo, Newton, Darwin, right? Pavlov, right? All of these goblins.
Well, Pavlov and Freud and Darwin seem to be like the shining stars of, that's like the satanic holy trinity of Darwin's religion.
This chapter begins with there being no telos. There's no purpose out there in the world. Oh, but there is a great purpose and story that's told to you about the progress of the great scientists advancing man's knowledge towards whatever our predefined goal is, even though there is no goal. There are no minds. Isaac Newton wasn't a man with a mind. Minds don't exist. I mean, you see the stupidity of it? This is what people fall for. How could you fall for this obvious absurdity? Unless you weren't willing to fall for this kind of absurdity.
Well, in this chapter that you're talking about, the Bertrand Russell's satanic saints of the scientific worldview, Pavlov, Freud, he doesn't talk about Skinner. Who's the other one? Darwin.
Newton, Darwin, yeah.
Yeah, and these are essentially the saints of what he says is the new religion. Like this is
the religion.
This is the new global religion.
They don't realize that he basically attributes all the divine powers and providence that God previously had to science.
Yeah.
And that's why science, in the list that I gave you, is anything and everything.
But what's crazy is this new religion when you actually start to look at it, it's the same as the old religion. It's a revival of paganism. It's neo-paganism. It's belief that we ourselves are God. We are all one. We are all part of this one living substance in the in the growing and evolving and ever expanding universe that is God, and everything is God, but nothing's really God, right? And it's all just power politics and the will to power. So then whoever has the strongest will to power, i.e. dominates and subjugates the forces of nature, and of course man around him, will become the king of evolution, the top of the dung pile of the universe, the aborted dung pile of the universe, and they will be the king of the pee-pee and the poo-poo forever. And that's why I titled this Bertrand Russell and the New Religion of the Old Gods, because I think you're a really good person to talk about this with, because you've studied ancient religions, you've studied occultism, and you understand the roots of the scientific method and the scientific outlook, which is Bertrand Russell's book here. Those roots do go back to occultism, right? Through John Dee.
Yeah, and one route to that, believe it or not, would actually be somebody you wouldn't expect, and that would be Richard Dawkins. Now you say, how would you get from Richard Dawkins to ancient paganism? I thought he's the shining light of science and reason and, the war against superstition. Well, there's been an interesting movement in Richard Dawkins in the last several years to move from that rank atheism towards being more open to things like pantheism, a form of pantheism, that nature itself and the movement and energy of nature is what we call God, and the idea of the alien mythology. Now, as we just covered in the stream before I came on with you, the alien mythos is the ancient pagan gods myth. It's the exotheology. And Darwinism and pantheism and exotheology and alien, that all works very well together. So the mythology of scientism, such as the Big Bang, right? This is very similar to ancient Hindu myths. The idea of man evolving out of a primordial soup or out of clay or out of dirt from lightning bolts. This is Greek myths, right? The idea of evolution existed, I think, in some form in ancient Egyptian philosophy and theology too. So Hinduism is really the long back root of evolutionary aeons that produce, man and this kind of stuff from lower forms. Reincarnation is similar here to this principle.
And in Hinduism, it's like Hinduism just like a mishmash.
The Big Bang is basically a secular myth that we don't have a god or an agent or cause of this Big Bang or this becoming to be. All of the universes of the galaxy, everything all the galaxies in the universe were all smushed into an atom, and it popped one day. I mean, that is ridiculous. I mean, who believes that? If you just stopped and thought. So how does everything smash into the size of an atom and blow up one day?
Something evolves from nothing, and then rocks become conscious of themselves and then take control of the nothing and evolve.
There you see, exactly. So the scientific worldview is itself always, and has always been, just mythology and mythological science fiction fantasy worldview. It's no different than ancient Hinduism.
Yeah. Ancient Hinduism is just kind of, it's not like there was like one doctrine of Hinduism. Hinduism is just this mashup of all these different gurus' beliefs that they pragmatically take up. There's thousands of temples all throughout India, and they call them all Hindu temples, but they're thousands of gods that anybody could just make up their new god. You got the monkey god and Shiva the destroyer and Hanuman, and you have all of these cannibal tribes who worship eating brains and stupid shit like this. It's just this mashup of all these pre-Christian, all these pagan beliefs that are basically people that are doing the same thing as Bertrand Russell, pragmatically taking a worldview into their hands and using it as a weapon for the will to power.
I'm half your size. No.
Oh, sorry. Hey, let me read some super chats real quick. Thank you guys. We got Rusty Shackle 4D just became the top bigot of the chat and proved himself the least bigoted. And congratulations, Rusty Shackle 4D. You and one of your loved ones will be exempt from from the coming perch. We're gonna put you on that elite list, and you'll get a special dose when they come around. Thank you very much, Rusty Shackelford. You didn't even say anything, but donated a big fat $50. Appreciate that. Anthony Westcott through $4.99 through Super Chat says Tyra Horeka. What is that? You know what that is? Tyra Horeka? Okay. Tyra Horeka. I don't know. Is that like a...
Guys, if you want to be the big man, the big daddy...
Ryan S1980 wants to be the big man and the big daddy. He says it's tragic that they teach the Big Bang evolution, how in schools and as absolute fact, when it couldn't be further from the truth. You have anything to say about that? Big Bang, evolution, where's that come from? The idea of the Big Bang.
Well, the irony is that if you recall, Russell says that the scientific method in one of his many infinite definitions is empirical sense data, right? Does anybody have empirical sense data of what happened at the 0 point atom exploding, molecule exploding, beginning of the Big Bang? No.
Dude, the Hubble Space Telescope can see into time-space, bro.
Oh, well, then, okay. Yeah, I mean, if we're just going to go into that, I mean, why don't we do
Redshift and blue shift,
sci-fi writers, right? Like, let's just do science fiction and say anything.
Yeah, right. Well, that's kind of what it becomes, right? Well, how about this idea? Redshift and blue shift for stars. It's like all this proves evolution, and this proves the structure of the universe.
Just stop and think about somebody claiming to know what happened 11 million years ago, and then what happened 1 billion years ago, and then what happened 5 billion years ago. I mean, it's just utterly ridiculous.
Dude, we can't. People don't even know what happened at the end of 2020 anymore. What's happened over the last 3 months is, as Twitter likes to say, contested. And so but we're
and the people who, by the way, who have told us that, just look up black holes. Okay, 5 years ago, black holes were the rage. 1 year ago, we've been told that black holes don't exist now. You'll find the same science magazine putting out articles about black holes and then showing that they don't exist. Now, I understand that science works on the basis of arguments and disproving. I'm just saying that 90% of this pop science stuff at space.com or I fucking love science or whatever, it's just stories, it's myth, it's narrative. It's nothing to do with empirical sense data. There's no empirical sense data that can tell you what happened 11 million years ago or 1 billion years ago. You can tell a story, but that's storytelling, bro. That's science fiction.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, and the scope of the knowledge claims just keeps getting bigger and bigger and dumber.
And changes. It's constantly in revolution and change. But that's how you know that it's not legit, because people don't even remember that junk DNA was supposedly this like central proof for evolution 10 years ago, and now there's no such thing as junk DNA. And you can find a clip of Dawkins saying the exact opposite of himself. Well, I've always said that junk DNA is the strongest proof of evolutionary theory. And then a new clip 10 years later, I've never said anything but junk DNA is a lie. There is no junk DNA, and the fact that there's no junk DNA proves evolutionary theory. People have compiled the clips of him contradicting himself.
Yeah, that guy's got the worst voice. He's very similar to Bertrand. They'd be buddies. Him and Bertrand Russell. They'd be hanging out in the brothels together. We got Autistic Spectrum Warrior donated $10. Says Bertrand is like a Muppet with a devil's hand up his back passage. Sounds about right. Matt donated Australian $20. Thanks, Matt. Hope everything's good.
It looks like a cartoon turtle.
It looks like a turtle on opium. He says, appreciate the content, fellas, and we appreciate the support, and the channel needs you guys' support. If you like these streams, support the streams, please, guys. Thank you very much for that support, Matt. Simon James donates $10. Says sometimes these gifts are funny. Most of the time they're annoying. Anyways, keep up the greater reset work. Okay, I saw your comment earlier. I saw your complaint earlier, and I turned off the notifications until just now when I started reading super chats. So while I'm reading the super chats, if you send a super chat, we'll get notifications. But otherwise, Simon James, you win. Sometimes people like them. Sometimes I like them. Sometimes I don't. And thank you very much for the support. Duly noted. You mostly hate them, but sometimes like them. DB donates Canadian $5 through Super Chat. Thank you, DB.
Skateboarding teens in Hawaii. right? And you just imagine
Good
them
timing.
shirtless all day.
I love that one. That one never annoys me. Skateboarding and the way in Hawaii. Imagine Dr. Greger and Bertrand Russell. Like at the what would they do together on a night out? They'd probably go to a brothel, right? That's what they Bertrand Russell, Dr. Greger, hitting up the brothel together. DB donates Canadian 10 through Super Chat, says the only black hole.
They would do experiments. They would do science. But you don't understand that because you're superstitious. You don't understand that.
That's true.
Some of us are out there for the truth, right? I mean,
yeah, the truth that doesn't exist. That the truth that we just get to make up pragmatically that doesn't exist. DB donates Canadian $10 says the only black hole I've ever seen is Neil deGrasse Tyson leading you down the rabbit hole to oblivion. That started out like almost sounded like it was going to be racist, but then you recovered in the end by mentioning the rabbit hole to oblivion. So thank you very much, DB. You've proven you're not a bigot 2 times with 1 super chat. DB donates Canadian $5 again, says love these philosophical live streams. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Exposing powerful lies. Thank you very much. Jerry donates $10. Says thank you, Vegan Gains, for all you do. With your strong leadership, we will make the world vegan. Wait, but with question mark. We will make the world vegan? Bertrand Russell will be proud of the world we will create. Oh shoot, wrong channel. Thank you very much. Appreciate that, guys. Yeah. So go for it.
I was just looking at the other book and recalled that, like, right away at the beginning of Impact of Science and Society, it says there's no such thing as purpose in the world or in nature. Then your books have no purpose or meaning.
Right.
I mean, if that's an all-encompassing statement, right? If nothing in the world in a universal sense has purpose, nature has no purpose, we are products and mutations of nature with no purpose, then we have no purpose. Our books, our writings, and our sentences have no purpose. So Bertrand Russell is saying his book has no purpose, has no meaning. But by the way, follow everything I say in my book and listen to the meanings that I give you and don't believe in God.
Right. But at the same, there's no purpose, yet he's always making moral statements, assuming things like purpose and good and bad.
Correct. Yeah. Basic fallacies. So
quantum theory starts to come up, right? So he does,
and that allows him to say, well, we don't know there's an external world. We don't know of anything. We're basically still stuck in human skepticism, and quantum physics bullshit shows us this, so we can never know. But don't worry, because one day science will figure out how to answer that question. Just so, in other words, faith.
Yeah.
Oh, it's faith-based. I thought we were not doing the faith-based thing. But Russell literally says, trust science. Down the road, we'll have an answer to the questions that we can't answer right now. That's called faith.
Yeah. that's true. And that's what it seems like quantum theory. Quantum theory seems to be this way of...
Quantum theory is the reintroduction of metaphysics and mysticism to scientism. It's a clever out for them to... Anything that's problematic or contradictory, they can just appeal to the quantum phone, dude. It doesn't work like anybody thinks. It's just crazy like that, bro. It's just crazy, dude. Which is nonsense. Hello?
Yeah, for sure. I was just waiting. Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. You know, it's quantum theory. They're reconciling the fact that the mysteries of the universe are there, and it's inexplicable things that science is unable to probe, like things like logic and reason, which he admits earlier. And yeah, quantum theory is going to explain all of this. And with quantum theory, you've got this essential kind of a negation of all logic and of all reason and of all knowledge, right? You know, the spooky action at a distance. Quantum theory kind of turns everything on its head and basically makes it to where everything is relative, and then just justifies this moral relativism and even physical relativism and scientific relativism down to a solipsism.
Correct, and he admits solipsism and the fact that we can never know that the world that we're experiencing isn't just a projection of our mind.
Exactly. He doesn't even believe in causality. Ultimately, he says quantum physics,
because he's admitting that we're stuck in Hume's dilemma. I mean, everything Hume said is still applicable now to people who are basic bitch empiricists. And this is just easily refutable from a philosophical perspective.
Yeah.
It's self-refuting. That's why you don't have to, it doesn't take a PhD to see that this doesn't work. It's self-refuting.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's just his whole chapter on scientific metaphysics. It does really end with a bang. I got a quote here. It ends with a big bang.
Not that I would undervalue science as a metaphysic, but the value of science as metaphysic belongs in another sphere. It belongs with religion and art and love, with the pursuit of the beatific vision, with the Promethean madness that leads the greatest men to strive to become gods. Perhaps the only ultimate value in human life is to be found in this Promethean madness, but it is a value that is religious, not political or even moral. It is this quasi-religious aspect of the value of science which appears to be succumbing to the assaults of skepticism. Until quite recently, men of science have felt themselves the high priests of a noble cult, namely the cult of truth. Not truth as the religious sects understand it, i.e. as the battleground of a collection of dogmatists, but truth as a quest, a vision faintly appearing and again vanishing.
Why are we on a quest if nothing has purpose?
Yeah, exactly.
A hoped-for sun to meet the Heraclitean fire in the soul.
So he even brings up the old Greek gods. He's justifying the old pagan gods and admitting that the scientific worldview that he proclaims to profess is religious at its core, and not just religious, but a very specific religion that's mentioned in two different references: the Promethean madness and the Heraclitean fire in the soul. Prometheus stealing the fire of the gods to give to man, which is this is
Scientism is Luciferian.
Exactly. The light
bearers. We are the light bearers of the new age, and we will bring in a new age when we become gods.
Now, to really seal the deal, by the way, I'd like to stress that impact of science on society is where, now there's a lot of really good quotes about kind of where he sees the future global system going, especially his positive comments about Lenin and communism and Trotsky in here.
Mm-hmm.
But this, remember, is 1931, and scientific impact is 1953. So 20 years later, he's had a lot more time to reflect and look and study the geopolitical situation. And he can go on to say, by the way, he does mention that the elite will eat real meat and the masses will eat fake food in this. In Impact, he goes on to say, in the future, the global government will control food and genetically modify not just food, but the babies. The genetically modified babies in the masses will be controlled by Pavlov, Freud, and entertainment and pomp, not logic, because the masses don't use logic. He says they will, in fact, be so controlled on page 30 that they will be, if they are told that snow is black, they will believe it because they are entrained to believe it by the global elite that manipulate them. That's page, again, 29, 30, 31. And he's not saying, oh, I'm a liberal, I want to stop all this. No, he's saying that the oligarchy of the future will set up this technocratic state. He says they will have an inquisition that will quiz you on what you believe and whether you are sufficiently believing what they tell you. And he says they'll even have child spies that will rat on everybody in this gigantic global technocratic republic built on Plato's republic that will engage in terraforming the planet, that will engage in cloud seeding, and it'll be a stabby-based government, he says on page 50 and 51. And he says if you don't accept it, you won't live. They will remove you. He says you will come to them to explain why you should be kept alive. And he says that it will be under the auspices of democracy, but it will have nothing to do with democracy. It'll be a scientific, technocratic priest class that will see the machine as God, and they will view the society as a machine, he says. It will be based around corporate statism, the lie of democracy, and bare authority with nothing to back it up. It doesn't matter, it doesn't need to be backed up, because you're going to be basically dumbed down, right? To where you can't oppose it, or you would never even think to oppose it. Why would you oppose it? Right? And he says this will be international.
Mm-hmm. I'm looking for the.
By the way, he has a poem that he cites, and he says that my true love, my true God, is death. And he quotes this poem on page 78, which is, I don't know who this is, some random poem. He's saying, you want to know my God and what I like? It's death. And then, by the way, he appeals to pragmatism and bare force. He says the coming technocratic government, they don't care about defending and making their actions rational to you, because it's all pragmatic and by force. It's intentionally irrational. Right? This is what people have a hard time understanding. And then he says that, in fact, it'll be great if we can have a giant plague going around that does massively depopulate. This is what we're talking about here. This guy's, by the way, he predicts peak oil here too. He says we'll end industrialization and come up with peak oil. That's on page 99. And I think that this is so over the top, this one, and just so in your face. People don't believe that it can be true. They don't believe that Bertrand Russell says this or that he's written this. Because I've read this book for years. I've talked about it for a long time. And the many people that I bring it up to, they will literally not even think it's real. Like, and if you show them the book, they'll say, yeah, but he doesn't say what you say. I mean, it's like, talk about cognitive dissonance. I mean, it's wild. The book is The Impact of Science on Society, Russell's book in 1953. Now, again, he is playing the part of a liberal. He's not actually a liberal. He's a hardcore genocide proponent. He wants most of the earth dead. He says that. So, I mean, if that's what liberal is, then yeah, he's a liberal.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he talks about mass depopulation very often. He talks
wouldn't it be great if we had some plagues going around, right? Who else says that? Oh, right. Not Prince Charles, but the other one. What's his name? Well, of course, can't you guess? I'd like to come back as a plague. Right? What's his name? The Duke of
Philip,
Kent or whatever.
Prince Philip.
What's his name?
Prince Philip. See, he says one of the possibilities of the future, which may have great importance, is the control of climate by artificial means. Right. So already this idea of we have to control the climate. Right. We who are going to become the gods have to control the climate. Which, I mean, this has become one of the central dogmas of scientism now. This idea of if there are too many people, and if you just pay more carbon taxes, if you pay taxes on your exhalations and kill all of your babies in the womb, then the climate will stop changing. Right? This superstitious, ridiculous control mechanism that's been developed.
Oh, get those numbers down.
And at the same time, though, we see that there are massive climate modification and weather modification programs that have been going on since at least the 1920s, with controlling weather through controlling artificial cloud cover. And he says, to the modern man, his physical environment is merely raw material, an opportunity for manipulation. He doesn't just see the physical world this way, he sees man's mental, psychological, and spiritual world that way as well, right? So he says the power of producing changes in the world, which is possessed by the leaders of big business in this present age, far exceeds the power ever possessed by individuals in the past. They may not be as free to cut off heads as were Nero or Genghis Khan, but they can settle who shall starve and who shall become rich. They can divert the course of rivers and decree the fall of governments. And we're seeing a lot of this lately, aren't we? All history shows that great power is intoxicating. Fortunately, the modern holders of power are not quite yet aware how much they could do if they chose. But when this knowledge dawns upon them a new era in human tyranny is to be expected. So he acts like, oh, well, no, this is going to be bad. But then later on in this book, he talks about how the Bolshevik Revolution, the Soviet Union, is this great experiment in human...
Great experiment. Yeah, he used the word experiment.
Yeah, in human farming, essentially, right? Like, he sees humans as just beasts to be farmed. He sees truth as just something that's relative as well, right? Like, it's just...
Well, I mean, now you see why they believe the evolutionary worldview, right? Humans are just like the farm animals, and they're farmed. and experimented on, and hence the caste system, right? The British model, that model of social Darwinism is exactly what you have in that caste system, and that's why that was so useful for the British Empire.
Yeah, and he's such a classic British thinker, right? This a genocidal maniac cloaked in this demure, smirking, eyebrow twitching.
Yes,
one
the
of
gentleman,
my,
right? He's the Bill Gates of his day, right? Oh, he's a man of science. Oh, he's a man of science. Get the numbers down. Right?
He's got that Pfizer Bell's palsy eye too. It's looking pretty good there. It's just this is so hypocritical. The dude even looks demonic. But check this out: men need a faith which is robust and real, not timid and half-hearted. Well, didn't you say several times in this book that real is just a social construct? That truth is just a social construct, right? So we need a faith that's true, but that's just a social construct, of course. And if you just convince the vast majority of men that it's true and good, then that makes it true because might makes right. He says this. So then he says, men need a faith which is robust and real, not timid and half-hearted. Science is in its essence nothing but the systematic pursuit of knowledge. And knowledge, whatever ill uses bad men may make of it, is in its essence good. Right? So power is good. Knowledge is power. Power is good. And whatever men make of it is simply, it is what it is, because power is good in and of itself, right? It says to lose faith in knowledge is to lose faith in the best of man's capacities, which is just the capacity for the will to power, as he says earlier. And therefore, I repeat unhesitatingly that the unyielding rationalist has a better faith and a more unbending optimism than any of the timid seekers after the childish comforts of a less adult age. So, again, classic British imperialist thinking, atheist imperialist thinking, completely violent and genocidal towards anybody that disagrees with him. But that's okay, because might makes right, and he is the elite in his own mind. He believes that he is this, intellectual titan who wields the sword of power and can dominate with it. Therefore, that makes him right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's the irony here, is that again, it's simultaneously contradictory, but also very revelatory and in a way consistent, because if there is no purpose, then it kind of leads to pragmatism and will to power. And pragmatism and will to power are perfectly consistent with the Darwinian mythos, right? Social Darwinism is, part and parcel of this attitude and this worldview that we have, where literally worshiping death, right? And why would he worship death? It's not because he necessarily believes in a literal angel of death, but if I look out at the natural world and I see life, I see things giving birth, right? I also see this process of death. And death is just as necessary as life if I just have this kind of naturalistic perspective, right? So if you don't have a biblical perspective, for example, there's no doctrine of the fall. Right, so you don't see death as an enemy, death as something to, seek for salvation from in Christ's resurrection. You just see natural process, and natural process just is, right? There's no right or wrong, good or bad. There is just what is, and this is why Russell is correct in the sense of being consistent with David Hume to say that you can't really get values from what is. You can't get an ought from an is, right? There's no logical leap from the fact that something is the case, that it ought to be this or that, or not be this or that. And so there is no morals, there is no truth, there is no purpose. Therefore, the scientific priest class will co-opt that. And he makes reference to Plato, he makes reference to the noble lie, right, which is Plato's idea that the God state, the God world state, the republic, has absolutely the right to concoct a fake religion that you will worship and you will submit to, because it's run by the philosopher king, the priest class, and you are nothing but a servant to that. You're the body of the, right? So for Plato, it's a man, right? The workers are the body, they're at the bottom. The soldiers, which are the guardian class, they're like the heart, they're the courage. And then the philosopher king is the mind, the highest level here.
Yep.
So these priest class people see themselves as the most evolved. They're the holders of reason, and you, everyone else, we are the body of this entity that they control. And for all intents and purposes for them is nothing. It's just the natural process for the predatory elite to rid themselves of excess, right? I mean, what do predators in nature do? Lions eat other animals.
Yeah.
It's just, we're just animals. So just,
yeah. Why not be
predators and prey? That's it.
The best thing you can do, the way that you win the game of evolution, is you become top monkey, right? You kill the males, you take the females, you get the biggest harem, and you depopulate everybody else. And that quote I said earlier ties into this too, right? Like where he says, you mentioned he worships, I worship death, he said in this poem, or he referenced the poem about worshiping death, correct? Well, he says here, the scientific elite can now decide who shall starve and who shall become rich, right? So like we have power over the natural resources, the flow of natural resources, and this idea is manifesting itself in this great reset situation that we see going on now, right? The control of resources.
Russell says that it'll be a scientific medical dictatorship that will be based around your food and your diet and your health. And he says that one thing he speculates about is when the world state comes into being, he says one good thing would be maybe a nuke war, right? He says, but a nuke war might not actually be the best way to go about global war and catastrophe, he says, because that might screw the planet up for us. He's like, so maybe actually a bioweapon that could be engineered that doesn't kill us, basically what he says. He says maybe that's a better method. Right? So he says, but regardless when the Republic world state is put into place, he says they will have strict controls on breeding. There will be global infanticide. It will be based purely on Darwinism and the scientific mythos. So this is the mythos of the coming world state, you say.
Yeah. So here I got the quote from the impact of science on society. If you think that Jay's somehow being hyperbolic in this claim, he's not at all. I would say that maybe Jay he not sugarcoat it, but maybe he even understated the nastiness of this dude, the way he speaks in this book. So he says, bad things, as you say, are exceptional and can be dealt with by exceptional methods. This has been more or less true during the honeymoon period of industrialism, but it shall not remain true unless the increase of population in the world is enormously diminished. War, so far, has had no very great effect on this increase, which continued through each of the world wars. War has been disappointing in this respect, but perhaps biological war may prove more effective. If a Black Death could spread through the world once in every generation, survivors could procreate freely without making the world too full. The state of affairs may be somewhat unpleasant, but what of it? Really high-minded people are indifferent to happiness, especially other people's. That's a quote from The Impact of Science Upon Society.
Well, yeah, the other thing too, and this is what detractors will say, is they'll be like, you misunderstand. He's not necessarily saying he wants these things. He's being a cold and calculated rational scientist who says that this is just simply what the future world state will have to do on the basis of reason and science. Mm-hmm. That's the whole point, is that he's playing the part of a liberal, and of course he believes these things.
And this is like the British elite worldview. It's like, we must.
It's what you always talk about with Lord Bergenheim.
Yeah, exactly. The guy's the same way, right? If we could just breed a nation of industrial dullards, industrious dullards, and pepper society with them to keep us entertained, that would just be lovely. You know, these people, they all write about how the state should take control of breeding. They're all pro-eugenics, right? The eugenics movement came out of the so-called elite, the intellectual elite of the eastern seaboard of the United States and England. That was exported to the Wilhelm Reich Institute in Germany and used as an experiment, right, by these big money oligarchs who are beyond nations. Right, so these people, when you look at thinkers like Bertrand Russell, these people are actually, these are like he's an Anglo supremacist, racial supremacist, racially driven ideology is what is behind this, and the genocide that this man openly talks about is is a major part of the system that we see being rolled out now at many levels, right? So you mentioned him talking about using injections and diet as a way to control populations, and Jay's not just saying that, he's not just making that up. Like, that's real. Here's the quote from Bertrand Russell. He says, diet, and I won't make you suffer through his nasally voice, make you suffer through my California retard accent nasally voice instead. Diet, injections, and injunctions will combine from a very early age to produce the sort of character and the sort of beliefs that the authorities consider desirable. And any serious criticism of the powers that be will become psychologically impossible. Even if all are miserable, all will believe themselves happy, because the government will tell them they are so. That's a quote from him. This guy is insane. These are crazy people that are running our world. These are crazy genocidal maniacs that set policy. These are crazy people, and they always say that they're doing it to help you. They're doing it to bring about equality. They're stopping the big, mean racists. They're stopping the climate from changing. They're stopping...
Well, they laugh at the people that actually believe that, too.
Yeah.
If you're dumb enough to believe that that's what this is about.
Right. You want to listen to... We got this quote on world government, economic inequality, and overpopulation. It's probably a good transition. Let's check this out. And, interrupt at any time, and I'll just pause it.
Lord Russell, what do you think the world needs to reach a happier state?
Well, I think there are three things that are needed if the world is to adapt itself to the Industrial Revolution. The troubles we are suffering now are essentially troubles due to adapting ourselves to a new phase of human life, namely the industrial phase.
Yeah, it's very Klaus Schwab-esque, isn't it?
Well, at that time, the industrial phase was what they wanted, and now the elite want the post-industrial phase.
Yeah. The fourth industrial revolution is what they call it, which is a new type of revolution, which is surveillance, state-run surveillance technology everywhere, ubiquitous inside your biology, biological tracking and tracing of everything, contact tracing, which is eugenics, essentially. You understand this contact tracing and deciding who you're allowed to be around, who you're allowed to hear, who you're allowed to speak with, who you're allowed to be coming in contact with. This is open eugenics, right? Run through cybernetic systems and interfaces that were designed by big tech, implemented by huge corporations, genocidal maniacs, the corporations like IBM, continued by people like Bill Gates, in order to control population and breeding. Yeah.
Three things are necessary if people are to live happily in the industrial phase. One of these is world government. The second is an approximate economic equality between different parts of the world. And the third is a nearly stationary population.
World government,
about each of those.
International communism, and tightly controlled breeding.
Mm-hmm. So a global technocratic eugenics state. That's what we need to be happy. you need this to be happy.
And that's why Klaus says you will get this and you will be happy. It will force you to be happy.
It's amazing. Like Klaus Schwab is like the spiritual offspring of this dude.
Yeah, absolutely.
The world government. The world government should be, of course, a federal government, leaving...
Global world federalism, so really similar to H.G. Wells' proposals.
Right, exactly. Well, they're both in the Royal Society. So.
Right. With League of Nations, UN. These are the vehicles that have been chosen for this. The UN sits on land donated by Rockefeller. The stated purpose of these are a world federal superstate to control resources, human movement, human breeding, and everything about our lives.
Yeah.
But they don't think the United Nations has done enough yet, right? The World War I and World War II, like H.G. Wells says, right? H.G. Wells says they didn't do enough in those wars to actually implement. Like, those didn't go far enough for world government and total control of all resources. Bertrand Russell also says those didn't go far enough in killing enough people. Those aren't good enough for destroying enough human beings, because he hates us so much, right? Yet he, that but he's going to make us happy by killing us all and giving us a great, happy world government.
Exactly.
A very great deal of freedom to the individual national governments, and only those things controlled by the world government which are absolutely necessary for the avoidance of war.
Like what you say on Twitter, or who you associate with in the world. We must control what you say, how you communicate, because that can of course lead to war.
And we see all of this is played out. All of the things that these people talked about 100 years ago. Well, this isn't 100 years ago. This is 69 years ago. They're all coming into fruition and accelerating at a rapid pace.
There's no plan for world government, though.
It's conspiracy
theory.
That
doesn't exist.
Conspiracy theory.
Even though there's Bertrand Russell, they're talking about it, it doesn't exist. And I love the response to, well, he doesn't mean what you mean. I get that one a lot.
Yeah.
The most important and the most difficult of these is armed forces. All the important weapons of war will have to be in the hands of the international government.
Like the means of communication now, which they consider, and this is what has happened today, just in the last few hours, right? The big tech has come out and openly said, we have to control what you say, who you hear, who's allowed to speak, including the heads of state, because you might hurt people. You might start a war, an insurrection.
Well, it's funny, another odd thing in his book was he gloats about how technology has come up with the bomb, the nuke. This is supposedly, going to be useful to depopulate. And then he turns around and he blames the masses for reckless wars and the development of nukes. So he brags about it and he's like, well, you've created nuclear technology which could destroy us all. This is your fault. Therefore, we're going to have to take control of the nukes and use them.
Why do all these British elite from this time period?
They all talk with the nasally accent and they all speak like this.
What's H.G. Wells' voice? H.G. Wells sounds like he's been huffing helium. They all sound like that.
When that happens, war will become practically impossible. And if war were impossible, mankind could go ahead. If war is not impossible, every advance in scientific technique means an advance in mass murder and is therefore undesirable. But,
he's saying that if we don't depopulate, the chaos of people will bring about the destruction of the human race. Therefore, we're justified in
destroying the human race,
getting rid of most of the race. Exactly.
We have to destroy the human race to save the human race from the human race, which might destroy the human race if we don't destroy the human race. You must understand this, plebs.
By the way, I'm not trying to be rude, but I think I'm gonna have to go. I got something I gotta go do here in a little bit. But is that cool, or are you gonna be mad? We've gone for an hour, right? That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's cool. That's all good, man.
You're not mad, right? I'm not trying to be rude. I love you, even though you have AIDS. I mean, I still love you.
Little AIDS.
You just have a little bit of it, like not a lot of AIDS.
Just little AIDS. Yeah,
I don't have 95% AIDS. I've got 28% AIDS.
Right. Yeah, dude. No, it's all good. I'll just finish this myself. I want to finish this clip.
Cool. Okay. Thanks, man. Yeah, we'll catch up soon and do another stream movie-wise if you want to.
Sure. Yeah, just let me know.
Would you want to do one of the alien things? So Jamie and I are going to do some alien movies.
Yeah.
You want to find a couple good, stupid, predictive propaganda alien movies to do?
Sure, yeah, you got Fire in the Sky. Have you seen that one? That's an old.
That's what one we're doing right now. Yeah. Okay. So we got a list of 20 of them, but
there's so many.
That one is actually one of the better. I mean, it's not a great movie, but it's better than a lot of these. Communion is terrible.
Yeah. I read Whitley Strieber's book Communion when I was I read it when I was 10 years old, man. It freaked me out.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that was.
You should watch the movie now with Christopher Walken. It's pretty funny.
I gotta watch it.
Aliens and the ass. Wow.
Nice. Yeah, dude, I'm down for that one. Well, I'm always down for Christopher Walken. He's got his voice is almost as good as Bertrand Russell's. Jay Dyer, everybody. You can find more at jaysanalysis.com. Remember, to subscribe to Jay, become a member of his website, and next time we'll do some we'll have some fun streams in the future. But I'm gonna keep going, guys. Don't leave. I'm still going. I got more clips to watch.
Congratulations on your reception into the Orthodox Church, brother.
Yeah, God man. Bless. Thank you.
Many years.
Thank you very much, Jay. All right, have a great night, Jay. God bless.
Right.
Thanks for coming on, bro.
Pray for us.
Peace. Later, Jay. There we go. Jay Dyer. See, I almost started this. I almost started the stream, but just did it solo because Jay was late and he was doing another stream. I thought I confused him about the time. So Jay's late to the party and early to leave. And here I am all alone. Let's see. You guys are sticking around. Let's keep going though. We got Bertrand Russell talking about the need for world government, because if we don't get world government, we don't dominate everybody. We don't dominate everyone, then we're not going to be able to evolve to be able to dominate everyone.
Chief.
Mr. Chief.
That's the first point. Now, I come on to the question of approximate economic equality. As things stand at present, Western Europe, and still more the United States of America, have a high standard of life. On the whole, the great majority of mankind live fairly comfortably from a material point of view. Asia, on the other hand, lives in very, very great poverty. So does most of Africa. And the moment people are sufficiently educated to be aware of these facts, the inevitable result is a great development of envy in the poorer parts of the world. That envy is a cause of unrest. And
so again, he's justifying.
We must make everything equal because people will not have envy. This envy in the poorer parts of the world, this will cause unrest and war. So in order to have our super state, our global technocracy, we must give everybody rations. We'll give them kibble rations. We must have a social credit system to control them. You can see the seeds of this new revolution that we've been seeing over the last few decades, using technology, right? Using cybernetic grids of human-machine interface. And then the next step, which Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum are pushing, which the Gates-type elite are pushing for next, which is, well, we're going to have integration with computers. Right? Elon Musk telling Joe Rogan that if we don't become one with the AI, then the AI is going to kill us. So we have to let the AI inside of us so it won't kill us. It's total madness. It's total freaking madness. We got some super chats though. Let's I'll throw the notifications back on so you guys can interrupt.
Guys, if you want to be the big man, the big daddy,
if you want to be the big man, the big daddy, you must give a global government to all the plebs and give them kibble rations and social credits.
Thank you very much. Stop the Reset donated $5. Says you were looking jacked in the caption. This photo. Oh, you're talking about the photo on Instagram. He says, I thought fiber was supposed to make it easier to go. Selfie from the outside toilet. Who does number 2 work for? Those are some good ones, right? Shout out to who does number 2 work for. That was my favorite one. And it's I like it even more because it's an old friend of mine that I've known since I was 16. Shout out to Tony. Tone, good old Tone. Hope all's going well with you and your family. I don't know if you watch these streams ever, but I know you watch the Instagram feed. And that was a great comment. Ooh yeah, snap into a Slim Jim. You're showing what a meat-based diet can do. We'll look through Instagram on the next stream. We'll have another fun stream. There's another stream coming up with Jay. That's going to be fun with this chick Veganica. This lady Veganica. She wants to debate or discuss Christianity and veganism with Jay and myself, and that'll be fun. So that's the next one that Jay and I we'll do together, and then we'll do some fake and aliens streams. That'll be fun. Aaron Burrows donated $2 through Super Chat. Says starting the Super Chats cascade. Now it's your turn. That's what's up. Aaron Burrows starting the Super Chat cascade. But look, Aaron, you did it wrong, like the vegans. you got to use Streamlabs because Super Chat goes to YouTube. Streamlabs doesn't pay YouTube because F YouTube. Master Ninja donated $15, doesn't say nothing. DeWitt Sagastrom donated $15 through Super Chat. Let's get a note. We'll replay
That's racism, man. I love to racism, bro.
It's almost time for new Super Chat notifications, isn't it? It takes so long to make them, but I think I might have to. We've had the same ones for several months now. Thank you, Master Ninja. Donated $15, said nothing. DeWitt Sagastrom donated $15 through Super Chat, said nothing. Thank you guys for the support. I really appreciate the support. The channel needs your support. We get no support from YouTube, so it's up to you guys to share the videos because YouTube will not. It's up to you guys to share this with your friends and family and to support the streams if you enjoy them. And you can support by sharing them, by thumbing it up, but I don't know if the thumbs up help as much as sharing them directly, right? Share the links on your Instagram and your social media. Richard Daly donated €5 through Super Chat. Thank you, Richard Daly. He says, can I join the chat? You're in the chat, dude. We're not doing open lines or anything like that. You can't join the stream. I only talk to certified e-celebrities. And like my favorite channel out there on YouTube right now, Jay Dyer. My homie, Jay Dyer. We ain't mad at you, Jay. We ain't mad at you. Me and you, we're always late to these streams. You often, always /often, later than I am. I'm always a little late. You're always a lot late. And we ain't mad. Leave it coming late, leaving early. It is what it is. We know you've got you got like celebrities to hang out with and whatnot, and you don't have time for us. So you cannot join the chat though, Richard Daly, unless your name is Jay Dyer, who's in the title. He can join the chat. He could even come back to the chat. Jerome donated $25, says, is it the church's duty to push back against this degenerate world, or can we only call it out for what it is? Also, how do you feel about moving out of cities versus keeping a career and fighting back more directly? It's not that it's the church's duty. It's the function of the church is to provide salvation, right? This is to be the vehicle of the grace of God in this fallen world. So it's not the church's duty to dominate and destroy on on a worldly level these people who choose using their free will given to them by God. It's not the church's or our responsibility to go and dominate all these people and force them to behave as we want them to behave. They've been given free will, right? We all have free will. We have the will to sin or to repent. Right, and I think that's the most important thing to understand. It's like we're not going to change and create a worldly utopia, right? This idea of creating a worldly utopia results in just becoming demonic, just like these people, right? Becoming spiteful, hateful, envious, and doing these shameful things that these degenerates do. That's not our job. But the church is the vessel of salvation. So that's what's up. Thank you very much, Jerome, for that $25 donation. I appreciate that. Come over here to chat. Look at these bigots. Look at these like 30 bigots left. I'm gonna find a list of the people who left when Jay left. You guys aren't allowed to come back. You guys are not allowed to come back. Get out of here. Get out of here. All right. Let's see. Back to Bertrand Russell. Thank you guys for the support. Keep supporting. Shout out to Jay Dyer. Jay Dyer's still apologizing. Jay Dyer, the more you apologize, the more I'm just going to make fun of you. Don't apologize, Jay. We appreciate the stream. Ryan Jones, you're out of here. Later, bro. We got some people. We got mutiny in the chat. Get out of here.
Inevitably makes world peace precarious. There's only one way of dealing with it, which is to produce approximate economic equality, which of course is a long story, but it can be done. The third point about population is very vital indeed. The food supply of the world tends at present to diminish through
the food supply. Oh, there's going to be limited resources, right? He's going to go for this Malthusian pseudoscience nonsense.
Of the soil. It tends, of course, also to increase through various technical advances. But those two are about balance, so that on the whole, the food produce of the world does not increase appreciably. Now that means that unless everybody is to be very poor, especially if you have economic equality, unless everybody is to be very poor, there must be not more people to be fed, not many more than there are now. And therefore you've got to get approximate economic equality.
So we need economic equality and food rations and world government. That'll save you.
Quality of population and approximately stationary population. Otherwise, those parts of the world where the population increases fast, we want to go to war with those where it increases slowly.
So it's the Bill Gates philosophy, it's the World Economic Forum philosophy, the Ford Foundation, the Rockefeller Foundation. Depopulation, it's the National Security State Memorandum 200 by Henry Kissinger philosophy, which that was influenced through Rockefeller, right? Was it David Rockefeller or the other one? I don't think it was Nelson. I think it might have been David Rockefeller, who commissioned Kissinger to do the National Security State Memorandum 200 study, National Security Study Memorandum 200, excuse me. If you search NSSM 200, you can read this document, which outlines the need to enact genocide against growing populations in the third world because of limited resources that need to be controlled by the government, by the state.
That brings us precisely.
And this is 20 years after Bertrand Russell's speech right here. These people, H.G. Wells was talking about this in the 20s and 30s as well. Malthus, who was this Anglican nut job, came up with this very pseudo-scientific, completely unscientific theory of limited food resources by putting fruit flies in a jar. I shit you not, this is what fruit flies in a jar eventually won't have enough space in the jar and they'll die. Therefore, the British elite establishment have to control all resources and breeding and kill off the weak so that the strong can survive, like fruit flies in a jar, and have enough space.
To the problem of Asia and what part Asia will play in the immediate future.
Well, Asia, first of all, has risen to the point of education. Some Asians have, where it is not prepared any longer to be subservient to the white man. It hasn't noticed that Russians are white. If it had, it would take a different line. But it seems to think that Russians are yellow or black or some other color. And I think our propaganda ought to be mainly devoted to saying only Russians also are white. I believe that would be the effective propaganda to use in Asia. But I pass that point by. Asia clearly is going to play
so it's all about pelvic blood flow. You get inadequate clitoral engorgement,
Super Coomer, Dr. Gregor. Super Coomer, Dr. Gregor. DB donated $5. Says Aaron said he'll ban me. I'm a bigot. Yeah, you can't ban DB. If you ban DB, he'll only be able to communicate with me through Streamlabs, which is now the only way that the President of the United States can communicate with me is through Streamlabs as well. Everybody can't be banning DB. Leave DB alone.
Perfectly futile. Absolutely futile.
There you go. Now Aaron Burroughs is openly extorting members of the chat. Aaron Burroughs. Man, I would ban you right now, Aaron, if you didn't give me my honorary black card earlier. Right? As a BIPOC, we have to stand together, so I won't ban you.
For the white man to resist that claim, it will infallibly win. Infallibly. And we ought, therefore, to concede it graciously at once before we're driven to it. To concede complete equality to Asia. But if Asia is not to overwhelm the rest of the world with a vast flood of population and poverty, Asia must live up to its responsibilities and must learn the sort of things we have learned in the West. which is
how to properly kill babies.
a roughly stationary population. And if they can't learn that, which I fully believe they can learn, and learn quickly, much more quickly than most people think, if they can't learn that, they will not have won their claim to equality.
So, more of this looking at human beings as environmental toxins, right? Humans are just environmental toxins that need to be eliminated. Humans are just things that need to be brought to heel. Human beings are just pests to be eradicated. And those Asians, they're having too many babies and they need to be brought to heel. So again, just more nuttery from Bertrand Russell, right? The high priest of scientism. This is from 1952. From 1952. So Bertrand Russell, thank you so much for teaching us the enlightened ways of the self-proclaimed British elite. Bertrand Russell, again, his personal life was in as much of shambles as was his philosophical life. Right? Bertrand Russell had, I think it was something like 4 divorces. Let's see. Bertrand Russell divorces. He was divorced at least 3 or 4 times, I guess. Loving Bertrand Russell. What can we learn about Russell's life as a philosopher? So Bertrand Russell, we'll take a look at his life. Here's a good article here. What can we learn about Bertrand Russell's life as a philanderer, not a philosopher, as a philanderer? So again, another one of these free love type people, right? Bertrand Russell had several divorces. Let's see. There's a severe deficit of literature describing Russell's 3rd marriage to the young Patricia Spence, who was 22, to Russell's 64 years when they tied the knot in 1936. She was an attractive Oxford undergrad with whom Russell fathered his 2nd son, Conrad, who later became a prominent historian. Patricia, too, must have been something of a scholar, cited as a major contributor to Russell's History of Western Philosophy, among his most popular publications. Oh, one can only imagine how jumbled and retarded that book is. I've not read his History of Western Philosophy, but you had me at Western Philosophy. That must be a cluster, a clusterfuck of a book. Given her age and lack of experience, 22. This dude was 64, married a chick a third of his age. That 22. That is disgusting. 64-year-old man with a 22-year-old girl. That is disgusting. That was. Given her age and lack of experience, Russell's 3rd wife must have contrasted Dora in just about every way, and this could well be considered his motivation for pursuing the relationship. Their bond spanned 13 years. At least it lasted a little bit, ending cacophonously in 1949. The subsequent rift between lovers foiled Russell's relationship with Conrad, who did not again see his father until the winter of 1968, a meeting which, for both of them, caused a permanent breach with Patricia. So this dude's got estranged children who don't even want to talk to him. He's got a bunch of ex-wives. Those small affairs surely thrived amid Russell's 3rd and 4th marriages. 4th marriage! His flight from Patricia began the summation of his career as a womanizer, which at 80 years might warrant remark in itself. So, hey, what a surprise. Bertrand Russell was a miserable coomer. He was a miserable coomer. Russell's 3rd and final divorce was finalized in 1952. Okay, so then he got a final marriage after that, I guess. That must have lasted a little bit. Almost 6 decades after his first marriage in 1894. Oddly enough, it was by the remains of his relationship with Alice that Russell happened upon his 4th marriage, the only one he appeared loath to abandon, discounting the great departure of death.
That's racism, man. I love to racism, bro.
So, before he died, and in the shambles of his 3rd marriage, he made his final marriage. Let's see, who was his final marriage? A woman named Lucy Donnelly, an acclaimed teacher of English whose countenance he had met by Alice's introduction. So his 3rd wife introduced him to his 4th wife. What a great man, Bertrand Russell. jumping from woman to woman, 66 years old, and marrying a 22-year-old. And then his 22-year-old wife, he finished with her and married another woman that she introduced him to. And then he died miserable with children that wouldn't speak to him as a creepy old coomer. What a surprise. Rat Splatigan, what's up, man? Thank you, Rat Splatter. Rat Splatigan donated $5. Says many years, brother, and hopefully many streams too. Hey, you guys like the streams? We'll keep doing the streams. If the bigots support the streams, I must do the streams. And one of the bigots has spoken. Rat Splatigan wants more streams, and he shall receive more streams. Thank you guys for the support of these streams. If I end this stream now, I might have more energy to do a stream perhaps tomorrow or Sunday. So I'm gonna talk to. I gotta coordinate with Veganica and Jay and see when we can get the next stream, which hopefully we can start punctually at the time which we agree upon starting the stream at, and get everybody to join the stream at the scheduled time that we agree on doing the stream at, and we can get Jay and Veganica on, and I guess that'll be fun. That'll be a fun one. So no, that didn't happen. That fell through. We'll see what happens with that. Hopefully that happens. So yeah, we got I don't know what else is going on in the world, guys. It's been such a boring year so far, 2021. Like nothing's really happened. Nothing. I don't know what's happened. There's never a lack of things that we'd like to talk about here. But of course, this being YouTube, there's a great lack of things that you're allowed to talk about. Yeah, you guys, everybody's seeing the purging that's going on all over social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. If you guys want to get updates on what we're doing, and you want to get our support, and you want to get in our weekly coaching calls, best way to do that is going to be becoming a member. Become a member, primaledgehealth.com/membership. There's a link in the description down below. Become a member. We do weekly coaching calls. You can get in on those coaching calls and get support from us, as well as a community of really cool, like-minded people from all different walks of life. And if you're trying to dial in your diet, improve your health, that's the best way, and that's a better way, probably a better way for most people as far as affordability goes, to get coaching from us on a weekly basis and have support from us in our community. So become a member, primaledgehealth.com/membership. The next meeting, coaching call is tomorrow at what time? 2 p.m. EST. Tomorrow we have our coaching call. So maybe I'll do a stream tomorrow night. There's so much to talk about. There's so many things to talk about as far as this food system reformation, this attempted food system overhaul that's going on in this great reset, which people need to stand up and oppose, right? We need to stand up and oppose this, or there will be nothing left to fight for really soon. So we got an all-out blitz of censorship going on in all these platforms, and that's going to be the best way to get in touch with us. That's going to be the best way to get supported by us. Let's see. What else? Any other announcements here? I'm gonna do my best to do a stream tomorrow. We'll talk about food. We'll talk about the myth of sustainability, right? Sustainable development, sustainable food systems, Rockefeller Foundation's food system reset, resetting the table document. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the lies of plant foods being somehow more sustainable and good for the environment than animal foods. Right? I mean, there's too much to talk about. Maybe I'll do an Instagram live instead, though. Instagram lives are fun because people can jump in, you can do live debates and stuff. But you follow me on Instagram for however long we're allowed to be there. And you can get in touch with us by becoming a member at primaledgehealth.com as well. Thank you guys so much for the support. It is World Carnivore Month, too. Forgot about that. It's World Carnivore Month. So we got new recipes at the website as well, primaledgehealth.com. And if you want to get updated, on our work, make sure to join our email list, which I don't see a link. There's no link. No. Is there? No.
Yeah.
There's no email list link.
Get immediate access to our exclusive
You got to make that more clear. Yep, you guys, there's an email list link down in the description below as well. You can join our email list if you want to know when we're doing these streams and get informed when these streams are going to happen. Join the email list. But we need your help getting the word out. This channel cannot grow. Every time we do a stream, YouTube removes several hundred subscribers. They've hard stopped any growth and any spread and any organic discovery of this channel via YouTube. We need you guys to share this stuff. We need you to share this on your freaking social media pages, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and all that stuff, or we can't get the word out, right? We can't. And we need your support as well. We want to thank you guys who did support. You know, one last chance for the Streamlabs. That's the best way to support. Don't support YouTube. Support via Streamlabs. So thank you to everybody who has supported. We had some big swingers coming in today. Rusty Shackle 4D, thank you very much. The top bigot of the night. Ryan S 1980, another big bigot. Exposing powerful lies, number 2 bigot of the night, I think. Autistic Spectrum Warrior, Matt. Who else? Stop the Reset. Aaron Burrows, Jerome, Rat Splatigan, Richard Daly, of course, DeWitt, Master Ninja, and Aaron Burrows. Stop the Reset as well. I don't know if I already read that name. Thank you guys so much for the support. And yeah, we'll see you next time. Later, guys. And of course, subscribe to Jay Dyer as well. He wasn't here the last few minutes, but check out Jay Dyer's channel as well. So I'm out of here, everybody. Have a good one. And yeah, I hope to see you guys soon back on YouTube. So get off the computers, get off the social media, right? Create real relationships in your communities. Get out there in the real world, and go live your lives. Bye, everybody.